Alright. Does everybody have this sheet out? Okay, so on the first part of 2 and 4, you had to find the biggest perfect square that goes into 40 and 99. So what's the biggest perfect square that goes into 40?
8.
Okay, stop. No, I can't do this again for the 4th time today. For the love of all things holy, you cannot just shout out numbers at me. It's a perfect square. You know what those are. Use the orange list. If you don't have an index card with that on it, make it. Don't just shout out numbers. We can't do that. Everybody's patience is done at this time in May. Act like you have some... That's the point of what I'm saying.
Why did you shout out 8?
I thought that was right.
It's not a perfect square.
I know. I got a little confused.
Why you can't know?
Because I thought I was right.
This is why we can't have nice things. Alright, so looking at this orange list, what's the biggest perfect square that goes into 40?
Okay.
4 and 10.
4 and 10. Alright, what's the square root of 4? So your answer should be 2 root 10. Did anybody get that right?
Yes.
Hey, that's exciting. Great job.
Got it right. I didn't get 20.
Neither of those are perfect squares.
Jack
Yes.
and Abbott.
Neither of those are perfect squares.
What is the blue one?
Can I do number
Is blue a perfect square?
Is 2?
Blue are the counting numbers. That's the square root of the perfect squares. We've even looked at this and written it down.
Oh, so 10 is in a perfect square?
No.
No. Oh.
Just in case y'all were wondering, it's May and we don't know these things.
Well,
Look, one more week.
It's May.
one of the seniors.
What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 99?
9 and 11.
9 and 11, I say.
Alright, and the square root of 9 is?
3.
So you should have 3 root 11. Did anybody get that one right?
Stop.
Woo!
I need that point.
Alright, now on number 6, what are we going to do with 5 and 60?
Multiply it.
What's 5 times 60?
300. 103.
Alright, so that gives you 103, and the square root of 100 is?
10.
So it's 10 root 3. Did anybody get that one right?
That was right.
That's
I
exciting.
didn't understand how to do 8.
Wow.
How to do 8?
Yeah.
Well, we did one like that in the notes. But I will gladly show you again.
Okay.
So on 8, the first thing you do is you multiply. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
What about, like, on number 4, what about the 11?
That would be wrong.
Yeah, what if you got it right? Okay. What if I didn't? Sorry.
The reason it's wrong is because 11 is not a perfect square. It stays under the radical. That's the one that wants to be inside to read Harry Potter.
We literally have cars that tell us.
We do.
Like literally.
Alright, so for number 8, you would multiply 6 and 24. What's 6 times 24?
I don't even feel like doing that. That's like a...
It's 44.
144? Alright, is 144 a perfect square?
Yeah.
What's the square root of 144? 12. So then what's 4 times 12?
48.
48.
And that's your answer.
So you do 6 times 24 again. Right after.
Did anybody get that one right? Yay! 3 people are children after my own heart.
So you bring out the 4.
So you get the square root of 144?
Yes.
So you did 6 times 24, right?
Yes.
And then you just have 4 there. On a good day.
Yes. Then you would break it down. So then it would be like what we did in our notes where we broke down 28 and we got 4 and 7. We took the square root of 4 and we got 2. 2 times 27 gave us 54. Yes.
So that's the number on the outside, but the number on the inside is perfect square.
Yes. Are we ready? Alright, for number 10, you had to take the square root of this. Alright, what's the square root of 16?
4.
B to the 4th is a perfect square, so how many times does 2 go into 4?
2.
So it's B squared. Did anybody get that one right?
I got that one right.
Hey, that's so exciting. Great job. Yes. Did you get it right, or do you have a question? That's not a question.
Can you explain to me how you got that?
Alright, I took the square root of 16 and I got 4. And then when it's variables, 2 goes into 4 twice, so you have B squared.
Wait.
Do y'all want to know how many... Yes, Kobe?
So outside is always 2.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so like you said, 50 squared is 16.
Yes.
You get 4,
Yes.
and then.
And then 2 goes into 4 twice, so that's why I have b squared. Do you want to know how many questions I've been asked today?
45,000.
Wait, can we make
Literally,
I
a
asked you a question.
She's making tallies. I'm still.
over under 50?
It's over 50. Oh yes. I'm looking at it right now.
115.
150.
What? Just today.
Since 7:30 this morning, I've been asked 115 questions.
Oh my god.
Does that explain just?
Alright, 160.
Does that explain a little bit of the stress?
Not really.
Like, how do you have 116? Are you serious?
Just a week.
I mean, on a good day.
Wait.
It depends on.
I don't like you.
Let's
Like,
push for 200. Who, what, when, where, why? Who, what, when, where, why? Who, what, when, where, why? Who, what, when, where, why?
They don't have to be different. You just say hoo like over.
How much is that?
What if everybody in the class says who at the same time? That's automatically like.
3, 2.
Don't you
1.
dare.
Who? Oh, how many people?
All right.
Need to all of you soda.
That's fine. You'll all get a 0 on this paper. All right. What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 40?
4 and 10. 4 and 10.
All right. What's the square root of 4?
2.
2 goes into 4 how many times?
You leave it inside.
2 goes into 6 how many times? And the 10 stays in the house. Did anybody get that one right? Hey, that's exciting. Good job. Do you have a question? Oh, okay, good. All right. Then we break it into the fractions, which a bunch of us have issues with. And that's okay. We're going to go over it. So what you do, first thing you do is see if you can reduce the fraction. Can you reduce 5/3?
No.
So then you break it apart. And it becomes the square root of 5 divided by the square root of 3. Then we have to get rid of the radical in the denominator, which means that we're going to multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 3. So this is where we rationalize. And remember, you always pick the number that's in the denominator. But we have to multiply it by the square root of 3 because 3 and square root of 3 are not the same thing. Then you multiply. You do the square root of 5 times the square root of 3, and that gives you the square root of 15. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 gives you 3. Did anybody get that right?
I got that one already.
Hey, that's exciting. Good job.
You go over that whole thing, you're going to
Yes.
I'm not getting
No. Alright, the first thing we do is we break apart the radical into the square root of 5 divided by the square root of 3. That's the first thing we did. We're allowed to do that. Do you understand the first part? That's all we did so far. Then we saw that there's a radical in the denominator, and we said, hey, radical, you can't be in the denominator. So, to get rid of that, we multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 3. You multiply it by what's down there so that you can get rid of it and kill it. And then we said, hey, radical, you're going to die. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 gave us 3. The square root of 5 times the square root of 3 gave us the square root of 15.
So that's all you had to do?
Yep.
So you turned it to square root?
Yep.
So you just made that 15 to 3?
Yep.
So you just multiplied
4.
3 and 3 and 5 and 3?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
That sells 4 right there.
Alright.
4 just.
Let's look at this one. Tomorrow we're going to do questions that have nothing to do with the lesson. So today it's all questions in general. Tomorrow we're going to do questions that have nothing to do with the lesson.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to see which one is more. I'm going to go with pointless questions.
Yeah.
Alright, so we did the first steps of 16 together. And then from here, all you needed to do is multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 7. And you end up with the square root of 2 times the square root of 7 gives you the square root of 14. And the square root of 7 times the square root of 7 gives you 7. Did anybody else get that right?
No.
Wait.
Wait, what you do?
Hey, that's exciting. Okay, what I did
I
was...
got the 7 divided by 2 part.
Because you got 7
2 divided by 7 part, but I didn't get that.
Divided by 3.
I guess I don't
21 divided by 3?
That's another one. So you just forgot about the one
That's another one.
and the two and the three?
That's another one.
Okay,
Divided by 3.
21.
It's 7.
guys, the first thing we did this part together. We did 6 times 1 and got 6, and we did 7 times 3 and got 21. And then we reduced our fraction. We divided the top and bottom by 3, and we got 2/7. Then we split our fraction up into the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 7. And then we said, hey, radical, you can't be down there. We don't want you there. So we multiplied the top and bottom by the square root of 7. And then we said, hey, radical, you're about to die. And it became 7.
Oh, so I was trying to denominate by the numerator.
Yes. Yes.
So, what about the 1 and the 3?
I literally just explained that. All right, number 18. Let's look at number 18. Can you reduce 4/5?
No, you can't.
So you break it up into the square root of 4h divided by the square root of 5. You don't get this first step?
No. So I do get it. I get it.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, can we have a radical in the denominator?
No.
And what do we say to that radical?
You're going to die.
Because we're going to multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 5.
Yeah.
All right? What is 4? What's the square root of 4h times the square root of 5?
28.
28.
It's 20.
1H.
The square root of 20h. Two different things. What's the square root of 5 times the square root of 5? All right, now, does 20 have a perfect square that goes into it?
Yeah.
What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 20?
5.
4.
How? 5, 10, 15, 20.
That was another question.
Oh.
Good job, Kobe.
All right. My bad.
Good job, man.
All right. What's the square root of 4?
2.
So then it's 2 root 5h divided by 5. Did anybody get that one right?
Where you get the 2?
Hey.
What did I get?
So how many questions is that?
That's another question.
All right. The square root of 20. The biggest perfect square that goes into 20 is 4. 4 and 5 make 20. The square root of 4 is 2.
Wow.
Okay, but why you put the 5H right there?
Oh, dude, you have asked probably half the questions on that list.
Because it's the square root of 20h. This breaks down into 4 and 5. The square root of 4 is 2. This 5 stays in the house because he's reading Harry Potter. So it's 2 times the square root of 5h.
I thought you said the square root of 20 was 4.
Anybody got that kid?
Do you ever swap?
I said that the biggest perfect square that goes into 20 is 4.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing you're saying.
You got the stuff?
All right, 20. 20. For the love of God, 20.
Yeah.
Now, does 45 and 4 reduce?
No.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to split them up. The square root of 45 divided by the square root of 4m to the 4th. Okay, is 4 a perfect square?
Yes.
Is m to the 4th a perfect square?
No.
Yes, because it's a 4.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
It's an even, yes. All right, so we are left with the square root of 45 divided by, what's the square root of 4?
2.
How many times is 2 going to 4?
2.
Okay. Does everybody see how I got that?
Yes.
Now let's break apart the 45. What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 45? 9. 9 times what?
5.
All right, and what's the square root of 9?
3.
So we have 3 root 5 divided by 2m squared.
That's what I got.
Look at you go.
Wow.
Wait.
Who all got it right?
I forgot.
3 people! Woo!
I missed that, man.
Yes. I'm ready.
You might as well write down some other questions.
Because if I ask
Okay.
Go ahead and put 5 more.
Now, I want to look at, we did 17 and 19 together, but I missed a step. I don't know what I was thinking. I went a little bonkers. Does 12 have a perfect square that goes into it?
yes.
What?
3
4,
and 9. Wait.
4 and 3.
Thank you. 4 and 3. What's the square root of 4?
2.
Okay, so this becomes 2 root 3q divided by 12. Now, what is 2/12 reduced to? 1/6. So it's the square root of 3q divided by 6. That's your final answer on this
Did
one.
you say cubed or cubed?
Wow,
Q.
that's amazing.
I know. I'm a wizard. Now, on this square root of 12, what's the biggest perfect square that goes into 12?
6. Yeah, the 6 times 2 is 12.
Thank you. Mitchell, why do you think it would change from one problem to the next with the same number? You know what I mean, Butterbean? Okay, you see this 12 right here and how we got 4 and 3? It's the same thing. Also, 6 is not a perfect square. Do you need a note card to make a list of your perfect squares?
I do too. Did you just?
How you want?
Okay, let's get that out.
How you want?
6 is a perfect square.
No. Do you see how it says the orange are perfect squares?
Oh. Okay, 6 is a square.
Alright, so then that gives us 2 root 3 divided by b. And that's our final answer for 19. Now let's look at this page. Please get this page out. We're going to start with our fractions and then work our way backwards.
No.
Can you wait just a minute?
Miss Asbury, I'm going to get to 39.
For the final exam,
Yeah.
I think we need to worry a little bit more about this.
I do.
I miss pop.
Yes. I'm going to tell you Friday.
You gave me a back.
Friday.
Maybe Thursday.
What
Your
Thursday?
study guide is due regardless of if you're exempt or not, and it's a test grade.
What?
Yes,
Yes.
So your study got test grade. So you failed the test. You get a
Wait, will the study guide be in this 9 weeks?
Please don't let it be over everything.
It'll be on the next one.
Okay.
Sorry, I have
Gonna be
tough.
That's another question.
It's going to be on everything we learn.
Alright, let's look at number 7. Alright, now, are 9 and 64 both perfect squares?
Yes.
So this one is different than the previous one. All you have to do for number 7 is take the square root of 9. What's the square root of 9? And then you take the square root of 64. What's the square root of 64? So your answer is 3/8.
That's it?
Oh.
Does everybody understand?
I thought it was like.
Baby, it's a new problem and I just explained how to do it. Alright, let's look at number 11. That becomes 3/10. Fantastic.
Wait.
Because the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 100 is 10.
12 is 2/5.
Yeah.
It is. This one is 2/5. Now, the reason that we can just take the square root of these is because the top and bottom are both perfect squares.
Oh, okay.
One more time for the
The top and bottom are both perfect squares.
I do number 14, I think I know it.
Well, let's look at number 13 first.
I think I know it.
Now, let's look at 13. Those are not perfect squares. So we do what we just did, where you break it apart. So we're going to break, does 20 and 27 reduce?
No.
No. So we're going to break it apart into the square root of 20 divided by the square root of 27. Hey, how about you write this down, Tater?
Okay.
Since I'm doing it with you, we could do that, right? Alright, now, I need to rationalize. How do I get that radical out of the denominator? How? Multiply by?
The square root of 27.
Yes, multiply by the square root of 27.
By the
3
numerator,
times 27
exactly.
is. Come on, Coach. 20 times 27.
What is, now, oh my gosh.
Why you right? Oh, never mind.
Hold up. Did you flip it? That's the question.
No, I didn't flip anything.
I thought you put the 27 on top.
That's right here.
I mean,
You're gonna
20
multiply 20
on the
and
bottom.
You own, no, you don't flip it.
My brain.
I thought you put the 20 on the bottom.
No, you don't flip it. We haven't done that at all.
Oh, that was.
All right, what is 20 times 27? And the square root of 27 times the square root of 27 is 27. I struggled with that. Now, who can tell me the biggest perfect square that goes into 540? What do you think it could be?
30? No.
15 and 36. Look at us go.
Thanks, bud.
All right, and what's the square root of 36?
6.
So that's 6 root. What stays under the radical? 15. All right, does 6 and 27 reduce?
No.
Oh my mama, what goes into both of those? 3.
And 9.
Wait, 90? Yeah.
All right, what's 6 divided by 3?
9.
And 27 divided by 3?
9.
I'll yell it out. She'll think I'm here.
Hold up. Oh, it's hot. Oh.
Now, another way that you can get this number right here, when you multiply 2 together, what's the biggest perfect square that goes into 20?
5. No, 4. 4.
The biggest perfect square that goes into 20 is 4. What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 27?
9.
What's 4 times 9?
36.
That's where that comes from. You take the 2 biggest perfect squares and multiply them together, and that's the biggest one that goes into that number. Yep. All right, let's look at 14. Please try 14 without me.
Once you need a perfect square,
Shake your
it's not a perfect square. It's not. It's not.
Somewhere.
You divide, right? No, you multiply. Did you just do number 15 too?
No. Did anybody get it right? Hey, that's exciting. Good job.
Me too.
Why you got like this?
I did.
You mean Hannah got it right
No,
and she
I
helped
did.
you?
No. Yeah, she helped me a little bit, but I did.
A little bit? Are you serious? You know I can hear you, right?
I know. I did. Sure.
Alright, so you break it apart. Then you multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 8. 27 times 8 gave us 216. The square root of 8 times the square root of 8 gave us 8. We broke apart 216 into 36 and 6. The square root of 36 is 6. You can reduce that into 3/4. Magic.
Wait. sir, you did. I'm trying to figure out a question to ask you, but I'm still confused. You got 4, and then it
Right here?
Yeah.
6/8 reduces to 3/4. 2 goes into both 6 and 8. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4.
Then what about the 6? Oh, never mind. You just said that. We get 3 from again.
6 divided by 2 is 3. I divided this and this by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4.
Okay.
Are you sure? No judgment, all God's children, but I need to know that you completely understand this problem.
I don't think he does.
What part don't you understand?
Just like when I get to that 6 and 6 and 8.
Just to reduce the fraction. I explained that 3 times. You know what the issue is, though, is that you pay attention until you get to this point, and then when I'm explaining the rest, you don't listen to it. Because I've said this same thing 3 times. So 2 goes into both 6 and 8. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. If you don't listen the whole time, you won't understand the whole problem. I don't just say this for fun. Look at number 35.
Oh. Why not round so dark?
I don't know. Because Jesus came down and wrote on it.
I'm telling him.
That's what I'm telling you.
I'm just telling Father God.
Alright. Now, does the top have a radical? The top, the numerator? No. So you can't reduce that. Since 4 is not under the radical, you can't reduce 4 and 20. What you can do now is multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 20. What on earth are you confused on at the moment?
I'm just saying, like, why could, I was going to ask you, why could you, that's a perfect,
20 is not a perfect square.
It is. Because the perfect square is 20.
20 is not a perfect square. Is 20 in that list of orange numbers?
4 is 16.
Wait, 20 at? Oh, see, it's right there in that blue.
Those are square roots.
20 times 20 equals 1.
Hey, she went to college for this, so like, but I did not say.
I mean, how many times has she actually been wrong?
A lot. If any.
Less than a hand.
Plenty.
I hate this class.
Yep.
Wow.
It's your fault.
That's your all out.
Blame it on Sean. Blame it on Sean.
We're not gonna do
All
that.
right. Now,
Now
are
let's
you ready for some magic?
No.
What is the biggest perfect square that goes into 20?
4.
4 times 5. What's the square root of 4?
2.
What's 2 times 4?
8.
So you now have 8 root 5 divided by 20. Does everybody see where I got the 8 from?
Yeah.
In a way.
The square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8.
Where you get the 5 from?
Because 4 times 5 gives you 20.
We should just have a day where everybody just asks questions.
Just shout it.
38.
Shout it from the rooftop.
And the very next
Just
day,
this
the
class
square will be under.
38.
Alright, 820 reduces to 2 goes into both of those.
That's 39.
4 goes into both of those. So that would be 2 root 5 divided by 5. Because you divide both of those by 4. I would like you to use those same skills and do number 33. And then we have to move on.
33.
Yep. Do number 33.
8 questions. Just a few.
33.
And how many times do you think that they've been the same question?
38 times.
20.
The whole time. Actually,
Over, under, 45.
What am I doing now?
33.
33.
Today.
I'm not going to let you come in here during zero period after school if you don't work on stuff right now. Okay, we're not doing that. Good. Check with your neighbor.
I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Did y'all get 3 root 2 divided by 2?
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
That's all I got.
You did it right. Thank you.
I got mine.
Why you got my phone?
Because you gave it to me. No, one got it with me.
You don't have it with you. This is why I can't have nice.
Scott, let's
This is why we can't have nice. Thank you. Enjoy. Alright, does everybody understand how we got 3 root 2 divided by 2? Okay, so you multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 2 because that's what the denominator is. 3 times the square root of 2 is 3 root 2. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. You understand? Okay, now we need to cover our last part, conjugates. Conjugates means opposite, so please go ahead and get opposite in your head. What is the opposite of positive?
Negative.
What is the opposite of negative?
Positive.
Alright, so conjugates means opposite. So we know how to get rid of the radical in the denominator when it's just a radical. But if you have 5 plus the radical, you can't just multiply the top and bottom times the square root of 2. You have to use the conjugate. So what is the conjugate of plus?
Minus.
So it would be 5 square root of 2. So you would multiply the top and the bottom by 5 minus the square root of 2.
Can I ask you just one question?
Yes.
Okay, so why wouldn't you do the opposite of that? Like, instead of multiplying, why wouldn't you reverse that?
Because we have to get rid of what's in the fraction, so to do that, you multiply. Is everybody ready? Are we sure? Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take your 3 and you're going to multiply it by 5 minus, bless you, the square root of 2. So it's going to be written like that. Does everybody see what I did? Did you just say Because all I did was write 3 and then this in parentheses.
Oh, okay.
Because we're multiplying, guys. We're multiplying.
Oh.
It does help if you look at the problem. Alright, now for the bottom, all you have to do is multiply your 5s together and then your square root of 2's together. So you would have 5 squared, and what's a positive times a negative?
Negative.
A negative, so minus square root of 2 squared.
Why would you square it?
Because we're multiplying 2 of them together. You're multiplying 5 times 5 and the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, so that's squared.
Why couldn't you just say 5 times 5?
Because we're writing it as squared so that we know what we're doing. We're squaring it.
It's killing
I might have just take my 5. Maybe 10 or 15.
I'm with
Pardon?
you, girl.
I'm about to have to text like 50.
Just don't, just let it go, breathe.
Like,
Alright, so now we distribute the 3 here and here. Does everybody understand? To get rid of parentheses, you have to distribute. So what is 3 times 5?
13.
Does everybody see where I got the 15 from? Alright, now we do 3 times the square root of 2. Can we multiply the 3 and the 2 together? No, because the 3 is not under the radical. So we're at minus 3 times the square root of 2. Now we have to do the denominator. Is everybody ready? It is super easy. What is 5 squared?
25.
The square root of 2 squared is just 2. So what's 25 minus 2?
23.
And you're done.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see, you know, oh no.
Oh,
You can't do 3 times that square root of 2, right?
Right, that's why we write 3 root 2. Okay, now let's do another one together so that we can make sure we totally understand. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's look at B. What is the conjugate of 2 plus the square root of 2?
2 minus the square root of 2.
Yes. So we're going to multiply the top and bottom times 2 minus the square root of 2. Is everybody with me? Thank you. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Alright, so now we're going to write it as 3 times 2 minus the square root of 2 divided by, what's going to be our first squared?
2 squared.
2 squared. Minus what?
2, square root of 2 squared.
Yep.
Alright.
How do we get rid of parentheses?
Multiply.
Distribute.
Multiply or distribute. What is 3 times 2?
5,
Oh,
6,
my Lord.
What is 3 times the square root of 2?
3 square root of 2.
Alright, what is 2 squared?
4,
And what's the square root of 2 squared?
2,
And what's 4 minus 2?
2.
Hey, Miss Asbury, why you jumping so much?
I'm not jumping anywhere. I'm standing here writing words down,
Wow.
writing numbers.
Huh.
I'm good. Wow.
Does everybody understand how I got that? Now let's walk through it one more time just in case. The first thing I did was I multiplied by the conjugate. I said I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 2 minus the square root of 2 because I need to get rid of that radical. Does everybody understand the first part? And then I said, hey radical, I'm going to multiply you by this 3. So I said 3 times 2 minus the square root of 2. And then I said, hey conjugate, I'm going to multiply you together. So I have 2 squared minus the square root of 2 squared. Does everybody understand?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
Then from here, I distribute my 3. So 3 times 2 gave me 6. 3 times the square root of 2 gave me minus 3 root 2. 2 squared gave me 4. Square root of 2 squared gave me 2. And 4 minus 2 gave me 2.
Wow.
Can you guys maybe try C without me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, please try C without me.
Is it a whole nother situation?
No.
No,
Oh.
it's still the exact same thing, and you still subtract on the bottom. Where are your notes?
Hmm?
I don't want to know. I think you're trying to kill me.